He ditched me on our anniversary to dine with his ex and her parents. Then I discovered they were secretly planning my wedding without me. I had been with my fiancé, Caleb, for 5 years. We'd been engaged for one. Our love had weathered long nights, busy schedules, and life's unpredictability. At least, that's what I thought. This story begins on a day that was supposed to be magical, our anniversary. The very same day, he got down on one knee last year and asked me to be his forever. We had planned a quiet, candlelit dinner to celebrate the moment that changed our lives. I remember waking up that morning full of warmth, expecting a day of love and memories. But instead, Caleb told me he had a last-minute work meeting. He apologized and said he might be late to dinner, but promised he'd meet me at the restaurant by 7:30 p.m. So I waited. I got there early, dressed in the outfit he once said made his heart skip a beat. The restaurant had dim lighting, soft music, and couples sharing laughs. But at my table, just a single glass of wine, and me. By 7:30, still no sign of him. 8:15 came and went. I had finished that glass of wine, my heart sinking deeper with every minute that passed. Waiters passed by, their eyes filled with gentle pity, asking if I'd like to order, and I kept saying, just a little longer. I texted. I called. No response. Finally, at 8:45, I couldn't take the humiliation anymore. I stood up, gathered my things, and walked out. But something in my gut wouldn't let me go home. Something didn't feel right. So instead of driving back to our apartment, I turned the wheel toward Caleb's office building, hoping maybe I'd find his car parked out front, some sign that his meeting had run late like he said. But the building? It was dark, empty, no cars, no meetings, no Caleb. That gnawing feeling in my chest twisted tighter. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed across town to the little Italian restaurant where we'd had our very first date. Call it intuition, call it heartbreak, call it desperation, but I needed to know. And when I pulled up, I didn't even need to go inside. There it was. Caleb's car. And I knew. I just knew. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at Caleb's license plate like it might disappear if I blinked hard enough. But it didn't. My heart pounded in my chest, my fingers trembling on the steering wheel. I didn't want to be that woman, the jealous fiancé showing up unannounced. But I couldn't silence the screaming in my head. So I got out. I walked through the doors of that Italian restaurant, the warm scent of garlic and rosemary hitting me like a punch. And then I saw them. There he was, Caleb, laughing, leaning in, sitting at a table with his ex-girlfriend, Natalie, and her parents, like it was some cozy little family reunion. They were smiling, drinking wine. Natalie held her phone out, and they were all looking at it, giggling at whatever was on the screen. And me? I stood there in the entrance, frozen. My entire body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. I must have looked like a ghost. No one noticed me at first. Not until I shifted my foot and the hostess glanced over, following my gaze. That's when Caleb saw me. His face drained of color. His lips parted, and he stumbled over his words. Olivia. I can't explain, but I'd already turned around. I bolted out of that restaurant like the walls were caving in around me. I made it halfway across the parking lot before I felt his hand on my arm. Liv, wait. It's not what you think. It's just dinner. They want to catch up. I turned to face him, my voice shaking. On our anniversary? The day you proposed to me? And you couldn't even text to say you weren't coming. He opened his mouth, closed it, then said the worst thing he could have in that moment. I forgot to check the time. The meeting ran late, and then Natalie called. I didn't mean to. You forgot? You forgot, I said, my voice cracking in disbelief. You've been planning this dinner while I was sitting alone at a restaurant for over an hour. He tried to soften his tone. You're overreacting. It's just dinner with people I used to be close to. That's all. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was gaslighting me in real time. No, Caleb. No. You left me sitting alone on a night that was supposed to matter. And you weren't just with her. You were with her parents. And you didn't think I deserved a heads up. I pulled my arm away from him, walked straight to my car, and drove to my sister's apartment. I collapsed in her arms and sobbed until I could barely breathe. My entire body shook with the kind of grief that doesn't come from heartbreak, but from betrayal. That night, I didn't sleep. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just dinner. I barely closed my eyes that night. Every time I shut them, I saw Caleb's face across that table, smiling, relaxed like nothing was wrong, like I didn't exist. The next morning, I woke up to 27 missed calls, dozens of texts, all from him. Please talk to me. Come home. Let me explain. This isn't what you think. I finally texted him back, just one sentence. I'll come by later to grab some of my things. When I walked into our apartment that afternoon, I expected to find Caleb. But what I didn't expect, his mother. She was perched on the couch like a gatekeeper, hands folded tightly in her lap. Caleb stood near the doorway, eyes red, probably from rehearsing his excuses. He moved toward me like he wanted to hug me. I stepped back. "Just let me talk," he pleaded. So he talked. He told me that Natalie's parents had always been like a second family to him back in college, that they were in town for only one night, and they really wanted to see him. He claimed he didn't mean to hurt me. It just sort of happened. They reached out, and it was the only evening they were free. He said like that made it okay. That's when his mom chimed in, her tone sharp with judgment. "Olivia, you're being dramatic. Caleb and Natalie dated years ago. They're just friends now. Her parents adore him. You can't expect him to completely erase people who were once important to him." I stood there, jaw tight, trying not to scream. That's when I noticed something on a coffee table. A stack of wedding brochures, colorful pamphlets, venue options, floral packages, floor plans. I picked them up slowly, like they might explode. "What are these?" I asked, my voice already cracking. Caleb hesitated. His face said everything before his mouth did. "That's part of what I wanted to tell you," he said. "Natalie's mom is a wedding planner. They were helping me look at venue options. For us." I blinked. "Without me? On our anniversary? With your ex-girlfriend and her parents?" "She has connections," he said quickly, as if that made it better. "She can get discounts at a few really great places." I thought it might be a nice surprise. A surprise? I looked at the brochures in my hand, then back at his mother, who was now smirking like I was the problem. "So let me get this straight," I said. "You stood me up on the night we were supposed to celebrate our love, so you could plan our wedding with your ex and her family?" Behind my back, his mom let out a dry laugh. "See, this is exactly why he didn't tell you. He knew you'd blow it out of proportion." I didn't say a word. I just grabbed a small suitcase from the hallway closet, stuffed it with enough clothes to last a few days, and walked right back out. Caleb called my name as I left, but I didn't turn around. Because right then, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. A week passed. 7 days of silence, unanswered calls, and bouquets showing up at my sister's apartment almost daily. White roses, apologies in ink. His mom even called mine, trying to talk some sense into me. I felt like I was suffocating in everyone else's version of my life. Eventually, I agreed to meet Caleb for coffee in public. Neutral ground. Somewhere I could leave at any moment if he pulled more of the same nonsense. I came prepared, with notes scrawled into a small notebook. Things I needed to say, things I didn't trust myself to remember if he tried to steer the conversation. When I walked in, he was already seated, nervously stirring a cup of black coffee. He looked up, hopeful like this was going to be the conversation that fixed everything. "Liv," he began, voice low. "I'm sorry. Really. I know I messed up, but I didn't want rehearsed apologies. I wanted truth. And I got it. Piece by piece, Caleb laid it all out." Apparently, Natalie's mom hadn't just randomly invited him to dinner. She'd reached out to him months ago, after seeing our engagement announcement in the local paper. His mother had insisted on putting it in. Natalie's mom had seen the announcement and thought it would be a great opportunity. She asked if she could help plan the wedding. Caleb admitted. Said she had ideas and connections, and I didn't want to be rude. So I said okay. At first, he told himself it would be just one meeting. But then Natalie got involved, offering to help, offering vendor contacts, suggesting dates and themes and venues like it was her wedding. "I didn't know how to tell you," he said quietly. "I kept putting it off. And then suddenly it was our anniversary, and that was the only night they were in town. I made a terrible choice." I sat there staring at him, barely blinking, my coffee untouched. Why was Natalie so eager to help? I asked. Caleb hesitated. "She and her mom are starting their own event planning business," he admitted. "They're using our wedding as part of their portfolio." It hit me like a slap. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "Our wedding, the most personal, intimate day of our lives, was actually a business opportunity for your ex and her mother." He looked ashamed, but still tried to defend it. "She's done high-profile weddings. She offered a massive discount. I thought you'd be happy. I was just trying to save us some money." That was the moment something inside me snapped. "Did it ever occur to you," I said, voice low, "that I might not want your ex-girlfriend planning my wedding? That maybe the discount isn't the point?" He looked down at his hands. "I thought you'd be more focused on the deal than who was offering it." That sentence stung more than I expected. Was that who he thought I was? Someone who could be bought with a bargain? I told him exactly how that made me feel. That it wasn't just insulting, it was telling. He backpedaled, apologizing again, saying he didn't mean it like that. that he just wanted to make our day special without blowing the budget. But then his phone buzzed, and I saw it. Natalie. Her name lit up on the screen like a warning flare. Twice. 3 times. Back-to-back texts while we were sitting there discussing the damage she had helped create. I pointed at the phone. She knows we're fighting about her, and she's still messaging you. I asked. She's just checking in. She feels bad. No, Caleb, I said. She's inserting herself. Again. By the end of that conversation, I didn't feel any closer to clarity. I felt worse. I told him I needed more time. And when he asked if his mother could take me out to lunch to clear the air, I just shook my head. I need space. From all of you. And I meant it. Another week went by. I tried to clear my head, to make sense of everything, but the more I thought about it, the more tangled it all felt. The more I looked at the situation, the more it stopped feeling like a mistake and started feeling like a message. Still, I agreed to meet with Caleb again. This time, we met in a quiet park. Neutral, open, no voices bouncing off walls or clinking coffee cups. Just trees, wind, and space to breathe. When I arrived, he was already sitting on a bench, looking smaller than I remembered. I didn't waste time. I sat down, left some distance between us, and looked him in the eye. Would you be okay if I had my ex plan huge parts of our wedding behind her back? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Hesitated. It's different, he said. Natalie and I have been over for years. That's not what I asked. I waited. After a long pause, he finally admitted, no, I wouldn't be okay with it. It was the first moment that felt real. We talked for 2 hours. About everything. About how left out I felt, how disrespected I had been, how hurt I was that people were making decisions about my wedding like I was a guest, not the bride. He apologized again, promised transparency, promised to keep me involved from now on. But then, he dropped another bombshell. Natalie and her mom already put down deposits, he said. I blinked. What? For some vendors. Her mom thought it would help to lock them in early. My mom helped with the costs. I stared at him, stunned. Wait, your mother? So she's been working with Natalie and her mom, behind my back too? He nodded, trying to soften the blow. They were just trying to help. Help. That word again. Everything was done under the umbrella of help, of convenience, of saving money. All while I was being kept in the dark. I was speechless. Caleb, how could they put money down for my wedding without talking to me first? His answer? You've been so busy with work lately. And you've said before you don't care about the little details. My jaw dropped. You think that means I don't want any say? That I'm fine just showing up and smiling for pictures someone else planned? He looked caught, embarrassed. My mom thought you'd appreciate not having to deal with the stress. That was the moment it clicked. They didn't just forget to include me. They chose not to. They thought they knew better than I did what I wanted. Caleb, his mother, Natalie, her mother, they made a committee. And I wasn't even on it. I told him I needed time to think. Real time. He didn't like it. He said I was throwing away our future over a misunderstanding. But it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a full-blown betrayal of trust. When I got back to my sister's apartment, I saw a text from Caleb's mother waiting for me. When will this tantrum end? We need to confirm the caterer by Friday. I didn't respond. Later that night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Natalie. She said she got my number from Caleb's mom and just wanted to apologize for the misunderstanding. I didn't say much. I didn't trust myself not to yell. She said she only wanted to help Caleb make the day special for me, that there were no ulterior motives. So I asked the question, do you still have feelings for Caleb? She laughed, casually. Too casually. No, that's ancient history. He's like family. Then why are you so invested in planning our wedding? I asked. There was a pause. It's good for business, she said. And besides, Caleb's always been easy to work with. That answer made my stomach turn. I thanked her for the call and told her I wasn't comfortable with her being involved. She sounded surprised. Told me some vendors were only available because of her connections. That wasn't comforting. It was a warning. There's a moment in every heartbreak where the pain stops being confusing and starts becoming clear. That moment came for me 2 nights later. I had gone back to our apartment. Caleb had begged me to come home, even just for a night. I told him I needed space, not another apology. But part of me wanted to believe that maybe things could still be fixed. He was in the shower. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone where he'd left it charging. The screen lit up. Natalie. Again. Another message. Something inside me cracked. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I won't pretend I regret it either. I picked up the phone. No password. He had nothing to hide, right? Except he did. There were hundreds of messages between Caleb and Natalie, stretching back months. Some were about the wedding, venues, cakes, flowers. But others? They were something else entirely. Flirty little jokes, inside references, texts reminiscing about their college days, about their anniversary dinners, about that beach trip they once took where everything changed. My stomach twisted. Then I saw the worst part. Messages about me. Natalie had sent him screenshots of wedding dresses. He replied, "Olivia won't care. She'll go along with whatever we decide." In another message, he told her, "Don't worry, she never gets involved in this stuff. I've got a handle." Like I was just some silent partner in a project he was co-managing with his ex. They laughed about how particular I could be, called me sensitive, too cautious. One message from Caleb said, "Let's keep it simple, or she'll spiral. You know how she gets." And then there were texts from his mother. Texts saying I wasn't the right fit for their family, that she missed Natalie, that she was so glad to be planning the wedding the right way this time. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I took screenshots of everything, every single message. My hand was shaking so hard, I almost dropped the phone. Then I packed my things. Again, he came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, smiling, until he saw my face. "Olivia, what's wrong?" I didn't speak. I just held up the phone. His face fell. "You went through my—" I cut him off. "You planned our wedding with your ex. You laughed about me behind my back. You let your mother trash me like I was some stranger. And you're worried I looked at your phone." He started to speak, tried to say I misunderstood, that it was taken out of context, that I was invading his privacy. But I was already gone. I left that apartment, that ring, that life behind, and drove straight to my best friend's place. She didn't ask questions, just opened the door and held me while I broke down. I felt like my soul had been yanked out of my chest and dropped somewhere I'd never find it again. I started therapy the next morning, because this wasn't just about Caleb anymore. This was about me, about how long I had allowed myself to be minimized, overlooked, dismissed, and I wasn't going to let it happen again. After I found those messages, something inside me changed. Not suddenly, not all at once, but the kind of shift that feels permanent, like a door closing behind you and locking itself. I spent the next few days completely disconnected. Turned off my phone, ignored the calls, ignored the apologies. Took personal days from work and went to stay with a friend in the mountains. No noise, no opinions, just the sound of wind in the trees and my own thoughts. Finally clear. I thought about everything. Not just the dinner. Not just Natalie. Not even the messages. I thought about the pattern. The subtle ways Caleb had always dismissed my feelings. The way his mother constantly spoke through me. Not to me. I thought about how I had spent 5 years compromising, shrinking, making space, while they made decisions and called it love. And when I came back, I was done. I texted Caleb and asked to meet. One last time. We met at a small, quiet cafe. Neutral ground. No drama. No audience. I sat down, reached into my bag, and placed the engagement ring on the table between us. "I can't marry you," I said, my voice calm. "And I think you already know why." He looked stunned, like he still believed a grand apology might change everything. "Olivia, please. I'll change. I'll stand up to my mom. I'll cut Natalie out. I'll do whatever you want." "No," I said softly. "Why does it take me leaving for you to even consider doing those things? Why not when I asked? Why not when I cried in the kitchen 3 months ago about feeling left out of our own wedding?" He didn't have an answer. He just looked at me, like he was finally seeing me, but far too late. His phone buzzed. He looked down, hesitated, then flipped it over. I asked, "Who was it?" He didn't say anything. "Your mother again?" He nodded. Of course. Even in this moment, this ending, she was inserting herself. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and told him I wished him well. And I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken. I wasn't hoping he'd chase me down or beg me to stay. I was simply done. I went back to our apartment one last time to pack the rest of my things. He had taken the day off to help me. It was awkward, civil. We laughed about old memories as I filled boxes, like two people who once loved each other but knew they had reached the end of the road. Then, as I was sealing the final box, there was a knock at the door. It was his mother and Natalie. They walked in like they belonged there. "I came to help," his mother said, arms crossed, voice clipped. "I thought maybe we could clear this misunderstanding," Natalie added, too sweet to be sincere. I stood there in silence. Then I said, "There is no misunderstanding. Caleb and I are over. And both of you had a part in that." His mother scoffed, already tearing up. "You're breaking his heart over nothing," she said. Natalie jumped in with, "I was just trying to help. That's all this ever was." I looked at Caleb, waiting for him to say something, to finally stand up, even once, and defend me. He stayed quiet. And that was all I needed to see. I picked up my last box, walked past all three of them, and stepped into the hallway with the kind of peace that only comes when you know, truly know, you're making the right choice. Walking away wasn't easy. No one tells you that even when you know you're making the right choice, it still hurts like hell. There's grief in leaving someone you loved, even if they didn't love you in the way you needed. The days that followed were strangely quiet. Too quiet. Caleb's mother took control of the narrative almost immediately, telling anyone who'd listened that I had gotten cold feet, that I was emotional, that I'd walked away over a little wedding drama. She painted herself as the victim of a bride who didn't appreciate all the help. And Natalie? She posted a vague caption on Instagram a week later. Being there for people you love, even when it's hard. Red heart hashtag loyalty hashtag truth wins and tag Caleb. That one stung for a moment, but just a moment. Because then something unexpected started happening. People reached out, quietly, privately. Caleb's sister messaged me, someone I had barely spoken to during our engagement. She said she understood why I left, that she'd seen her mother manipulate every relationship Caleb had ever been in, and that I was brave for walking away. Then came the mutual friends. Some sent texts. Others invited me out for lunch. They didn't pick sides. They just said they respected my decision, that they were still my friends, that they saw me, really saw me, and that was everything. I moved into a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I decorated it the way I wanted. Bought throw pillows Caleb would have hated. Lit candles his mother used to complain, gave her a headache. It felt like freedom. I kept going to therapy. I started hiking again. I signed up for a writing workshop. I filled the silence with things that brought me back to myself. And slowly, the ache in my chest softened. I wasn't crying every morning anymore. I wasn't staring at my phone, hoping he'd message. I wasn't wondering if I'd made a mistake. Because for the first time in years, I could breathe. Then one afternoon, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Caleb and Natalie were getting married next spring. My stomach flipped, but not from pain. Just surprise. The envelope had been forwarded from my old address. It was addressed to Olivia Grace and Guest, like I was just another name on a list. I laughed. Actually laughed. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same woman who once told me I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too emotional to understand the big picture was now the bride. And according to mutual friends, Caleb's mother was planning every detail. History was repeating itself, just with a different bride. A bride who apparently didn't push back. One friend told me Natalie wasn't thrilled about how over-involved Caleb's mom had become, but didn't say anything because she didn't want to rock the boat. I felt a twinge of sympathy, and then I felt free again. Because that boat, that chaos, that control, it wasn't mine to steer anymore. Time kept moving, and so did I. A few weeks after receiving the wedding invitation, I booked a solo trip to Portugal. It had been on my bucket list for years, but Caleb never wanted to go. Said Europe was too crowded, too expensive, too far. Funny how freeing it felt to stop asking for permission. Lisbon was everything I didn't know I needed. Cobblestone streets that slowed me down. Ocean air that filled my lungs with something other than anxiety. Cafes where I could sit for hours, sipping coffee and writing in a journal that didn't have his name in it anywhere. And on the third day, I met someone. His name was James, an American expat working remotely as a software engineer. We struck up a conversation over a shared table at a crowded brunch spot. What started as casual small talk turned into a 2-hour conversation about books, travel, and our mutual love of bad puns. He asked if I wanted to walk with him through the Alfama district. I almost said no. I wasn't looking for anything, but something about his energy, easy, kind, curious, made me say yes. We spent the rest of the day wandering winding alleys and laughing like we'd known each other in another life. At the end of it, we exchanged contact information. No pressure, no expectations, just connection. Since I returned home, we've been video chatting regularly. Late night calls filled with laughter, slow moments, and questions that actually wait for answers. He's planning to visit next month. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited. Nervous, yes, but excited in a way that doesn't feel like walking on eggshells. The most refreshing thing? He listens. When we disagree, he doesn't dismiss me. He doesn't try to out-talk me. He leans in. He wants to understand. He sees me, and not just the version that's agreeable or easy to manage. He sees all of me and still wants to stay. We're taking things slow. I'm not rushing to define it, not trying to fill the space Caleb left behind. I don't need to, because I'm not the same woman who sat alone in that restaurant months ago, wondering what she did wrong. I'm stronger now, quieter, but deeper, and I finally know what I want. I want a partner who respects me, Not just in words, but in action. Someone who brings me in rather than plans around me. Someone who makes room for my voice instead of silencing it with convenience or control. And if that's James, wonderful. And if not, I'll still be okay. Because the most important thing I learned, I don't need to be chosen to have value. It's been 6 months since I walked away from the life I thought I wanted. 9 months since that night, I stood frozen in the doorway of an Italian restaurant and watched the person I loved laugh with someone else while I sat alone waiting for him. And now, I've never been more at peace. I wasn't planning to share any more of this story. I thought I had moved on, but something told me that maybe the ending wasn't just mine. It might be someone else's beginning. So here it is, the final page. A few weeks ago, I ran into Caleb. It was at a mutual friend's birthday party. We hadn't spoken since the last time I handed him the ring and walked away. It was awkward at first, of course it was. But he looked different, lighter, maybe more grounded. He said he was still in therapy, that he had finally moved into his own place, away from his mother's reach. He told me he realized how much of his life had been built on other people's expectations, and that losing me had forced him to really, truly look at that. I told him I was glad he was doing the work. But I also made it clear I wasn't coming back. He respected that, and we parted on good terms. Then, not long after that conversation, I heard through friends that he and Natalie had started dating again. At first, it hit like a punch. All that time he swore they were just friends. All the moments I doubted myself for feeling uneasy. Every apology that now felt paper thin. But after the shock wore off, I didn't feel hurt. I felt relieved. It confirmed what my heart already knew. I was never crazy. I wasn't too sensitive. I wasn't overreacting. I was right. And I'm so grateful I listened to that little voice inside me. The one that said, drive to the restaurant. Something's wrong. Because if I hadn't, I might still be stuck in a story that didn't belong to me. Instead, I'm living one I actually chose. I got promoted at work last month, something I've been quietly chasing for years. I finally feel seen in my career, respected for my ideas, trusted to lead. I took another trip, this time to the mountains with a hiking group I joined. I stood on a summit with the wind in my face and thought, this is what it means to come home to yourself. And James? He visited. And yes, it was wonderful. We're taking it slow. But every conversation with him reminds me of how good it feels to be heard, to be met halfway, to be wanted for exactly who I am, not who I can adjust myself to be. But whether it works out or not, I'm already whole. That's the part no one tells you about healing. It doesn't always end with someone new. Sometimes, the real happy ending is finding your way back to yourself, to your own voice, your own pace, your own damn peace. So to anyone listening, who might be sitting alone at a restaurant or second-guessing your instincts or being told you're too emotional, too difficult, too much, please hear me. You're not too much. You are just enough for the right life. Don't settle for being a supporting role in your own story. Choose yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if you have to walk away without a plan, even if people don't understand. Because the other side of heartbreak, it's not just healing, it's freedom, and it's waiting for you. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you in the next one.